And we are beginning the broadcast with a look at markets. The U.S. corn crop improved slightly this week with the USDA's good to excellent ratings at 64%. Nebraska was a few ticks better at an even 70% good to excellent. The drought continues to hammer North Dakota with a good to excellent rating of only 17%. For soybeans, 76% of Nebraska's crop is good to excellent, with nationwide blooming at 91%. Earlier this week, Market Journal was out at soybean management field days. We caught up with Heartland Farm Partners President Jeff Peterson to talk markets and get his take on current crop conditions.
You know, it was actually surprising. We were actually looking for the conditions to probably be 1 to 2 lower on corn, and they ended up coming in 2 higher. The big surprise actually was Illinois popping up 11 percentage points higher on the good to excellent. So we're really kind of questioning there. So yeah, that was a surprise. Beans holding steady. It was interesting. The week before they were up a couple, then they kind of hold steady. But I think what it does speak to is just the importance as we go forward each week here of watching these conditions closely, especially North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, and then over into Iowa, just to see how this crop finishes, because we're just right on the edge on moisture. We just don't really have quite enough subsoil or topsoil, so we got to continue to get timely rains or it will hurt the yield.
And yeah, speaking of timely rains, we had some storms coming through this past weekend. What has that done for the markets?
You know what, the challenging thing we always run into is it's been those pop-up showers, so it's the type of thing where if you happen to be underneath them, it definitely helped on the yield side, but there was enough of them out there that's probably what helped on the condition side. There was enough moisture that came down that kept us from seeing that lower rating coming in on that good to excellent conditions.
Okay, and as we speak, the August WASDE report is on deck. By the time this airs, it will have come out the day before. But as we look toward that report, we looking for it to really shake things up one way or another? What do you think?
You know, it sure could, because what we've got is, if you think about the yield, so we'll start first on the yield on corn. It's a change, and what I mean by a change on the yield is that all of a sudden you've kind of got WASDE handing off to NASS. So the National Ag Statistics Service, they'll survey the farmers, ask them what they think the yields are. They've also looked at the satellite data, bring that all together so to come up with a yield. We're looking for the yield to be lower. 179.5 is where the trend line yield is. Some of the early guesses are 176.5 in that area, so we think the yield will come down. The surprise and could shake things up if for some reason it doesn't. The other thing we're looking for is also a lower production number for Brazil. And when we see that lower production number on Brazil, in particular on the corn, then we do think there could be some increases on the export side as we reach out into the 2021 crop. It'll have to happen at some point on U.S. corn. Whether it happens in this report, probably still a little bit up in the air, but there should be some adjustments in those areas.
How much volatility do we normally see with this August report?
There can be a lot of volatility in this August one. The difference you would have is that if you go back and starting in 2019 is when things changed with those yields. It used to be the August report would have infield observations. So it's not really a revision of yield, it's a totally rebuilding of yield. And so yeah, there could be a lot of volatility with this one. We got surprised last year. Fortunately, after the report came out, the market did start moving its way higher, but it could be very volatile.
And here we are in August, harvest going to be here before you know it, so maybe a good time to think about post-harvest grain marketing plan. What kind of questions should we be asking ourselves right now?
Yeah, those are great questions. So first of all, if you start off with, let's say you've got some hedged arrives that you maybe sold earlier, the thing you have to think about is that, are those going to be on some bushels that you're going to deliver at harvest time? If they are, I don't think we want to set basis yet. If they're going to be for bushels that are going to be in the bin and be delivered later, then we'll really want to start watching those spreads between like December and March, December and July. I don't think we should roll those out yet, so let's just be patient there. The other thing we want to think about is those unsold bushels that you're going to have up and beyond maybe your stored bushels that are going to go in at harvest time. We're thinking as of right now on those bushels, make sure you have storage space for them. We think we're going to want to go ahead and store those bushels as opposed to selling them off the combine. But we'll have to watch yields to see for sure. And then on anything that you've got that you've already sold ahead that you have the basis open for, that's going to be delivery, maybe it's out in December, January, February, we still want to be patient on the basis levels there yet too.
And speaking of basis, if you want to dig a little deeper into that, what's basis looking like for corn and soybeans right now?
Right now what we're doing, starting first on the corn side, we're seeing a little bit of strength come back in that market. I think some of these ethanol plants still need a few bushels yet, but if you've got some old crop to move, take advantage of that basis. basis that we're having some strength there. As we come into this fall and into basically stuff's being delivered off the combine, I think we're going to have some really good, strong basis levels. We're starting to see China come back in on the soybean market, and they're starting to buy some more soybeans. They've already got some on the books, but the U.S. is cheap now on the bean side. We're very competitive, so I think we'll see sales improve there. That'll help our basis level. And so I think over on the corn side, the ethanol plants, like we talked about, will take that push. But then be careful in there, because once they get filled, they will sit back and wait a little bit and wait for some cheaper bushels to come in, but then we'll see some improvement after harvest again.
All right, you touched on China. What are exports looking like right now? What do we need to know?
Yeah, on the export side, you know what, we're moving along decent. On the corn side first, we know that there's going to be some bushels that they aren't going to get them all shipped out. So on the corn side, there'll be some of their old crop corn bushels for the export side will get moved over to the new crop side. On the beans, you know, we're going to continue to start seeing shipments pick up there also on the export to China. We want to watch China really close on the corn side though, just to make sure that the demand that everybody thinks they're going to have shows up, and that'll be when we see those bushels shipped.
Saw you do a tweet about fund positions in corn. Talk a little bit about that. What's the story there?
Yeah, on the fund side, you know, the funds still want to be buyers of the corn. They just haven't taken a big position. I think there's enough uncertainty out there yet. We would expect as we go forward, especially if the yields come down, to see them come back into that market and be a bigger buyer. We also think that could happen over on the soybean side, but it's going to take maybe just a little bit more time there yet. There's still a lot more uncertainty about the bean yield yet, only because August rains is what's going to really determine whether or not we've got a good bean crop or not.
All right, great info as always today. Let's end it with any marketing or risk management advice that you want to leave us with.
So I think the big thing coming into harvest time here is just really think about, okay, as we're getting closer, what is my break evens on my grain? Think about what's going to trigger your sales as we come in here. And also, if you don't have bushels sold, you're going to have to take them to town. Really think about, you know, what you're going to do with those bushels when you get them brought in. Our recommendation as of right now would be to consider storage as opposed to selling them or a basis contract.